This is a University of Otago podcast.
Hello and welcome to Otago University Vote Chat 2011. Vote Chat is a series of conversations with campaigning politicians here at the University of Otago. We're filming this live in the media production studios in front of a live audience. So we're trying to do things a bit differently here. It's being filmed and live streamed on the internet, and will eventually be on YouTube to be watched or downloaded as a podcast on iTunes, and it will also be broadcast on Channel 9, the local Dunedin station. Okay, so also being watched maybe on the Twitter sphere or at least followed there. So if anyone wants to participate, make sure you use the hashtag OUVoteChat2011 with your questions or reactions. Okay, so today I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it because we've got Grant Robertson, Labour MP for Wellington Central, also the Labour Party's campaign spokesperson. So, we're going into the election. He's the man that we'll be hearing from about how Labour's striving ahead and so forth. And he's also a future Prime Minister, according to many. So welcome, Grant.
According to you, Bryce. Thanks, Bryce.
Yes. So, welcome, Grant. Anyhow, straight into the most topical stuff about that you've been involved in, controversies, homophobia in the Labour Party. Is Trevor Mallard a homophobe?
Absolutely not. I
No.
mean, Trevor's record on issues for the gay community is really good. He was one of the driving forces behind homosexual law reform. His voting record is as good as anyone in Parliament. He's not a homophobe.
I think that you're completely right. He's not a homophobe. But the question is he using homophobia? Because you don't have to be a homophobe to use homophobia for electoral advantage.
He made a comment in Parliament where he used a term to describe Chris Finlayson, which is a silly term. It's unacceptable. I don't accept that it should be used in Parliament. So that does not make him a homophobe.
No, I don't think so either. Just as you can have people like Winston Peters, he might not be a racist, but sometimes he uses allegations and things that fuel racism. Yeah, look,
maybe. I really don't think that's what was happening here. And the context of this is important. This came out of a candidates meeting in Wellington the other night, with an ACT Party person trying to defend the fact that he was a Liberal in a party where John Banks is the most likely ACT MP to get into Parliament, a man with a record of not just shouting out a comment across Parliament, but a record of abusive remarks about the gay community. So that's the context. But what Trevor said was unacceptable in Parliament. He's acknowledged that. He's acknowledged he shouldn't have said it. But I think trying to dress it up as somehow or other homophobia in the Labour Party, I find a bit hilarious. The Labour Party should be judged on the record of what we've done for the gay community, and that is unparalleled in other governments.
Absolutely, but still, nonetheless, it does seem to take something away if you've got senior members of the Labour Party who might be seen as using it as a sort of pretty dirty tactic against opponents.
Well, no, I mean, I think we're talking about one or two comments shouted across Parliament. They're not in the same league, but in the exchange with Clayton Cosgrove, he called him Mini Mike and Mr. Comb Over. The stuff that goes on in Parliament is actually not particularly edifying when that happens. Sure. And it's not good. But I think it's a complete diversion to somehow suggest that this is a indicator of kind of homophobia in the party. The party has done a lot of things for the gay and lesbian community, and will keep doing that.
Okay, we'll talk about some of those, but just to finish this part off then. So is that a condemnation of what he said?
Yeah, absolutely, and I've said that publicly. So yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I mean, just some people were suggesting you're just calling it silly. You're kind of underplaying it.
Look, I don't think it's representative of who Trevor is, and it's certainly not representative of what has been said in Parliament. A couple of comments a couple of years ago don't translate to me to some endemic homophobia in the Labour Party, which is what was being suggested. Okay,
so further on, issues of sexuality, gay politics, whatever you want to call it, why won't the Labour Party allow gay people to marry?
Well, the Labour Party's policy is for marriage equality. There was the rainbow policy that was announced the other day.
But as far as I understand it, you won't allow marriage to be open to non-heterosexuals.
No, the Labour Party's policy announced the other day is that we are going to modernise relationship law. And that will be the policy.
Sounds a bit wishy-washy, modernise.
Well, no, it's not, because you need to think about the context of it, of bringing in civil unions. There are when we brought in civil unions, there are a lot of people in the gay community who actually didn't want anything to do with marriage. marriage is seen as a patriarchal institution, a religious kind of institution.
But they might have still felt discriminated against.
Well, no, and there
certainly,
certainly are others. And what I think we need to move towards is an institution that is open to both same-sex couples and heterosexual couples. Now, that institution could be called marriage. We could get rid of marriage and call it civil union. We could create something that's called civil marriage.
So Labor wants to abolish marriage.
No, I'm saying these are the options that would be out there to modernise relationship law. But my view is there should be a state-sanctioned civil marriage that is open to all sorts of couples. The problem is the connotation about what churches will do with it, what religious institutions will do with it.
Another question.
I suspect over the long term, my own personal view is that if we set out a marriage of some description in law that is open to everybody, that's what we should do. Frankly, the churches can go and do what they like at that point, as long as we've got it equal under law. But the Labor Party's policy, don't knock us for actually describing the policy how it should be described. We need to modernise relationship law. Now, the easiest way to do that will be to open marriage up to everybody. But we also live in a world where people want the choice. Some people want civil unions to be a choice because they don't even want the connotation of marriage. So, we're describing the policy to reflect reality. But that's the policy. It came out.
But I'm getting the sense that you personally think that marriage itself should be just opened up to whoever.
Yeah, I do. That's my personal view.
Right.
There's a question from the Twitter sphere about what you think of Damien O'Connor's comments about gaggled gays.
I've made very clear to Damien what I thought about those comments.
So is that another condemnation?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the Labor Party is a broad church. It contains a lot of people who have joined the party because they believe in the kind of values of equality and social justice and so on. And I didn't think Damien's comments were appropriate, and he certainly knows that.
Okay. So recently, I think the Labor Party's launched something about issues of gay and lesbian students at school and safety issues about that. Again, I sort of wonder about the last Labor government. Why didn't the last Labor government deal with that at all?
We did. And so when Chris Carter was the Minister of Education, the Education Review Office's reporting arrangements were changed so that when they were looking in, among the other things they look at, they were looking at bullying. They were looking at, I'll finish now, they were looking at homophobic bullying. Yeah. And so that is part of their ERO process now. That doesn't go quite far enough though, because ERO comes in, it does a range of reports, it doesn't necessarily lead to anything in particular. Yeah. So what we're now proposing is to strengthen that so that it does, that as part of schools' reporting processes, they report on things like bullying, safety in the schools. So, like a lot of things, we made a good advance when we're in government, but there's always going to be more to do. Well, more to do.
So the ministry or ERO, as far as I know, never criticised any schools for having unsafe environments in terms of...
They had to report around bullying, and as part of that, they had to specifically talk about homophobic bullying. What we'll now have, with the proposal that we've got, is that that'll be taken a little bit further, so that the schools actually have to report on that, what they're doing to make schools safe. And it's not just in terms of homophobic bullying. I mean, the wider issue of bullying in schools is a really important one to get on top of. But I don't think it's fair to say we didn't do anything, which was what your original question was. We did, and there's a bit more to do.
Okay, so tell us more about homophobia in politics. Does it exist? To what extent is it holding back people like Chris Finlayson or anyone else? Is it a problem?
Certainly not holding back Chris.
No, that would be my observation. But look, apart from people,
it's kind of interesting. So we've sort of had the first few minutes of this around these issues. Yeah. For me, they don't define what I'm doing in politics.
Sure.
I didn't get into politics specifically because of issues to do with gay and lesbian issues or homophobia. I got into politics because of my belief in social justice and equality, and these issues fit within that. Yeah. For me personally, I don't think it's holding me back in Parliament.
Well, you've had a meteoric rise. So
but it doesn't define who I am as a politician, and I don't actually think it defines who any of the current gay and lesbian MPs are as politicians. We've all got quite specialist areas of interest.
For better or worse, it surely is seen to define Chris Carter.
Well, he's not a current Member of Parliament, is he, Bryce?
Off of 2 weeks ago, you're right. Absolutely. Okay, but do you think there's some sort of glass ceiling? Do you think it could constrain you getting to Prime Minister, potentially, if that's how the stars align.
The big if, but I think I have great faith in New Zealanders. I think it's mattering less and less to New Zealanders what people's sexuality is, and I don't believe that at all. No.
Okay. Any questions around this area before we move on to other things? Nothing on the Twitter sphere at the moment. Okay, I mean, one of the reasons I'm excited to have you here, Grant, is that we go a long way back.
We do, Bryce. I know a lot lot about you.
Yes, we've known each other.
Where should we start?
Yes, it is a two-way thing. We've known each other for over 20 years, I think. Yeah. We were both together at university in first year back in, we won't mention the year, but some time ago.
Another century.
Geez, yeah. And at that time, I sort of, very much noticed you as a sort of an important player in student politics, even though you weren't even on exec or anything at that stage. You seemed to have something about you which made it clear that you were going somewhere in politics. And so I've watched your career very closely over the years, and you've done all sorts of exciting things. So if people don't know, Grant was he was a politics student here at the university, did honours. How did you do in honours, by the way?
I got a first. Yeah.
A first?
Yeah.
Good first or
a just first.
Okay. He was also OUSA president. He was then NZUSA president. And then has gone off into other stellar parts of your career, such as working in the United Nations as a diplomat for New Zealand, working in Helen Clark's office as a senior advisor, and a senior manager at the university
research,
here.
Research office.
So take us back to those, being a politics student, what do you remember about the department? Speak freely here.
Speak freely. I remember being in 101 with Jim Flynn and in the first couple of lectures and having absolutely no idea what he was talking about. But I made an extremely strategic decision on the first day. Yeah. I sat next to Andrew Geddes. And that made my 101. I love the polls department. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
It had you went in it then. You went in it then, Bryce. So, but it had some characters in it. I mean, it had Brian Roper and Stuart Greif in offices next door to each other. For those who don't know, Brian and Stuart, you could not get two people more apart on the political spectrum. And you'd go in to get your essays from Stuart Greif and you'd go, "That asshole Roper," and he'd be right next door and you'd sort of be sitting there going, "Oh, please don't talk like that while he's there." So it was, but I really enjoyed the department and I loved doing the honours program. It was great. Yeah.
So what areas